you should have the fill in the blank part 6. Make sure you have that. Fill in the blank part 6. All right, the title is Must Know Land Empires of the Early Modern Era. We have to know 4 land empires. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of them. So up above, up at the top, right up here, I want you just to write these empires down. One is Manchu, M-A-N-C-H-U. Second is Mughal, M-U-G-H-A-L, M-U-G-H-A-L. Third one is Ottoman, O-T-T-O-M-A-N, O-T-T-O-M-A-N. And the last one is Russian, R-U-S, you can spell Russian, Russian empires. All right, let's get started. Now, at any time you have some questions, just ask Ms. Fishnick to pause the video, and she'll text me the question, and hopefully I can be in a place where I can answer the question. All right, let's look at number 1, fill in the blanks. By the 1640s, some dynasties, so right away you know it's China, the ones that had the dynasties, the Ming, M-I-N-G, the Ming dynasty, had become very weak and were taken over by a peasant army. You know, China has a thing of, you know, a dynasty will rise, it'll stay there for a while, and then it'll fall off. Another dynasty, and on and on and on, just like that. The Ming is at the downward fall here. They're falling to pieces. A peasant army rises up and defeats the Ming. So now the peasants are running the show. And needless to say, it's not a good show. I mean, they don't know how to do anything about government. So right now, China's very weak. You know, kind of common sense there. Peasants are taking over. All right. Number 2, the Manchus from Manchuria. M-A-N-C-H-U-R-I-A. Manchuria. Manchuria is a country right next to China. So it makes pretty good sense that they would come in. All right, were able to conquer this peasant army, and they became known as the Qing. But it's spelled, before you write it, Q-I-N-G. But it's pronounced Qing. Qing. All right, we got to get this. This is big. The people from Manchuria, they're called the Manchus. When they take over China, the dynasty is called the Qing dynasty. So Qing and Manchu are the same people. You have your notes right here. Turn it sideways right up here. Manchu equals Qing. Q-I-N-G. Manchu equals Qing. All right, number 3. China was now under the rule of foreigners for the second time. The first time being, now what country, what only other place has invaded China? We've had tons of different dynasties come and go, but there's only been one other country that has invaded China. What was that? If you said, here are your choices. A, Tohoku Police Force. B, Bob. C, Mongols. D, Mongols. Your answer should be C and D. The Mongols were the only other outside force that invaded China, other than the Manchus, because the Manchus come from Manchuria. Number 4. The Qing, or what's another word for the Qing? Should be Manchus in the parentheses there. The Qing or the Manchus had some similarities with the way the Mongols controlled China. I put it like this because on lots of other AP tests, they have you compare and contrast Mongols and Manchus all the time. Of course, this year we have no idea what they're going to do. It's a coin toss. But we're going to be as prepared as we can possibly be. So we're going to find the ways they were similar, comparison, and going to find some ways they were different, which is contrast. All right. Letter A. Both reorganized the army to lessen the importance of tribal allegiances. Allegiances. I'll let you spell it. Allegiances. Letter B, the Manchu leader. Here's how you spell this. N-U-R-A-N-C-H N-U-R-H-A-C-I. N-U-R-H-A-C-I. And it's pronounced Narachi. 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 That's a fun word. Narachi. Narachi. Sometimes I'm just walking along and I say, hey, Narachi. Narachi. Created a large army consisted of units called banners. Banners. B-A-N-N-E-R-S. Banners. Similar to the Mongol. Now, what did the Mongols call their little groups? There were 5 different Mongol groups. They were called the Mongol Khanates. Khanates. K-H-A-N-A-T-E-S. Khanates. All right. So there's one similarity. The Mongols had banners, which were very similar. The Manchus had banners, which were very similar to the Mongols with their Khanates. All right, letter C. The whole goal of this was when you conquered an army, you brought that army into yours. But the defeated army was split up, and sent to different places. So they would form a new loyalty to the Manchus and forget their loyalty to their old army. Example, let's say All Saints High School is an army, and we are defeated by LISD. Then they would split us up. 3 or 4 of us would go to Lubbock High, 3 or 4 of us to Coronado, 3 or 4 of us to Monterey, Well, then we become loyal to that school. You know, if we all went as a group there, we would still have our internal loyalty. So the Manchus are pretty cool with this, thinking how to do it that way. The Manchus made an effort to mimic Chinese culture, unlike the Mongols. The Mongols did not want to have anything to do with Chinese culture. All right. The Manchu belief, the Manchu beefed up some parts of the Chinese government, including the Confucian Civil Service exam. Under the Mongols, foreigners, not Chinese, foreigners, were put in the bureaucracy, and the civil service exam was done away with. Manchu brought back the civil service test. Remember, that's under part of the Confucian thing. He loved the civil service test. You had to take a test. If you're going to be Department of Agriculture chairman, you best know how to farm. And you would take a test. Do you know how to farm? That way people who actually knew what they were doing got the jobs. You didn't get the job just because your daddy died. You had to be qualified for the job. That's what the Manchus did. The Mongols, as we've already learned, they picked the smartest people from their whole empire. You know, hey, you're a good farmer. I don't care if you're 2,000 miles away. You're coming to downtown Mongol land now. You're in charge of farming. Another contrast. The Mongols, Manchu, we're on number 6. The Manchu, like the Mongols, wanted to preserve their own ethnic and cultural identity. So intermarriage between Manchu and Han Chinese was forbidden. My notes don't have the word forbidden. The words forbidden. Add that on at the end of number 6, forbidden. Now, I just threw in the word Han Chinese. What Han Chinese are, it's like the very first official organized Chinese, a dynasty way back a long time ago. And everyone considers themselves descendants from the Han dynasty, and they call themselves Han Chinese. You know, and Chinese today will still call themselves Han Chinese. An example of that would be, like in England, they still call America, or some people do, call us the colonies, from the original 13 colonies. Oh, you're from the colonies. No, I'm from America. Well, that's the colonies. And if you're an American, you're called a colonist. It's just a holdover from generations past. So when you hear the phrase Han Chinese, it doesn't necessarily mean during the Han dynasty. All right. Asterisk there. The Han Chinese lasted from 206 BCE to 220 CE, and my eyes are failing me. Kind of like us saying descendants of the colonial America. Okay, I just got through going over that. That's what the Han Chinese were. All right, look at number 7, the Manchu. And what's another word for Manchu? Qing, Q-I-N-G, Qing. forbid Chinese from traveling to Manchuria and learning Manchurian language. The Manchus wanted to be totally separate from the Chinese. You know, they wanted to be the elite. You know, if you have a Manchu boy and a Chinese girl get married and have kids, well, what are you going to call the kid? It's going to be Manchu, it's going to be Chinese. They did not allow marriages between them. The Manchu wanted to keep their bloodline pure, so there was no intermarriage. And also, you were not even allowed to go to Manchuria if you were Chinese. You weren't allowed to go in there, and you certainly weren't allowed to learn the language, Manchurian. The whole purpose of that was it made the Manchus in China, the Qing, very elite. They had their own language. You know, they could speak and you couldn't understand them. All right, number 8. Chinese men were forced to wear their hair in a braid called a queue, but it is spelled Q-U-E-U-E. Q-U-E-U-E, as a sign of submission. All right, everybody look, it has an image of that. Flip over right now. Flip over and look at that image. I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you. Guess what I'm going to do while I wait? My throat is already sore because this is a bunch of times I've done this. Ah, here I am. And it's all out of order. There we go. All right, you look at the picture, like the ponytail thing. The Manchu insisted all Chinese men have their hair like that. There have been AP tests in the past, doesn't mean anything now, where they just have that picture. And you had to coordinate it or correlate it with which dynasty. You know, the Song, the Tang, the Manchu, or the Qing. That's who it goes with. That way they were separate. The Manchu knew who the Chinese were. The Chinese knew who the Manchu were. The Manchus were the one without the ponytail. And if you notice lots of old pictures, you see Chinese with that. It's still kind of you still see that today. Well, in old pictures that you can look at today. All right. Number 9. Another word for the Manchu. It has Manchu in parentheses. What is it? Qing. Q-I-N-G. I know I'm beating this dead horse, but you've got to know these are the same people. Created a multi-ethnic empire that was larger than any earlier Chinese dynasty. Dynasty. Now, look at your image. Go back. Flip over. Look at the image. All right, are you there? Look how big that thing is. Massive, massive. Big point here. Which dynasty had the most land? Manchu or Qing. Qing or Manchu. Big honking amount of land. All right, number 10. Going back to your notes there. And at any time I'm going too fast, if you ask Miss Fishnick just to pause it, and I'll just pause there. You thought that was me. Okay, that was funny. I don't care who you are. That was funny. All right, number 10. It covered Taiwan, and Taiwan is spelled T-A-I-W-A-N. Mongolia, M-O-N-G-O-L-O-L-I-A. All right, flip back to your images now. Let's look at those. All right. Come on back. Let's go to number 13. Number 13. I lost my mind. I dropped my notes one time and everything goes crazy. Okay, now we're good. All right. Number 11. The Qing and Russian empires were getting very close together because the Qing was growing. Remember, they had more land than any other empire. So the Manchu and the Russian leaders approved a treaty that defined borders and regulated trade. Trade is the big word, trade. The Manchu knew they were right next to the Russians. They didn't want to fight the Russians. The Russians were pretty solid. They weren't great by any means, but, you know, so let's just get a treaty. You know, I'll stop here, you stop there, and we'll do fine, and we'll trade back and forth with each other, which is great. So they both agreed to that. All right, we're going to pause here before we go to the Mughals. So